You know what? I've been around for a while. I've traveled the world, met some interesting people, done some crazy things. So you might just think there's not much that could take me by surprise. You'd be wrong. The world is full of stories and science and things that amaze and confound me every single day. Incredible mysteries that keep me awake at night. Some I can answer. Others just defy logic. Like the surfer attacked by a great white shark. Incredibly, he survives thanks to the intervention of dolphins. Did they intentionally risk their lives to save a human? Or the skinny 110-pound Missouri teen who beats impossible odds by lifting a car to save his dying uncle? Do humans have reservoirs of hidden super strength? Weird or what puts it to the test? And is it possible to smell death? Across America, domestic pets are becoming harbingers of doom, accurately predicting when someone will die. Is that weird or what? Yep. It's a weird world, and I love it. Human beings have always had a complex relationship with the other creatures on our planet. Now, there are some out there that we avoid for good reason, like lions and tigers and bears and wild women, but some we have a special connection with. Take, for example, dogs. We always think of dogs as being man's best friend, right? What if I told you that there may be another creature out there competing to be our best friend, a creature that would put its own life in jeopardy to save our skin? This story takes place in Monterey Bay, California. A surfer experiences something so horrible it can only be described as a waking nightmare. On August 27, 2007, Todd Endress and Zane Hawley decide to catch some waves.
I really felt that it was just a nice day and that we were going to get good waves.
We paddled out together, and it was just me and Todd, and we were kind of laughing.
We were out in the water for probably about 45 minutes. It was just before 11 a.m. And I was watching one of my friends surfing in. I had just paddled back out, sat on my board, and watched my friend get a wave. I was just sitting there waiting for my next turn.
Then seemingly out of nowhere, a huge 20-foot great white shark attacks Todd, biting into him with its rows of razor-sharp teeth.
And it hit me really, really hard, traveling at a high rate of speed. It was going for the kill.
When I heard this blood-curdling scream, and just all this blood kind of just squirting up and down.
I just barely managed to scramble and get my board and put it under me. And literally, as I was putting the board underneath me, the shark latched onto me and sandwiched my surfboard with its bottom jaw and my back together because it bit me. It got me from my shoulder all the way down to my thigh, and it fit me in its mouth and shook me back and forth like you'd see a dog doing to a stuffed animal. I was literally with my back hanging off of my body, and it bent my right knee backwards and swallowed my leg into its mouth. So I was losing massive quantities of blood. I was just completely frantic and out of my mind, scared.
But miraculously, something comes to his rescue. a nearby pod of bottlenose dolphins intervenes, attacking the massive killing machine.
When I saw the dolphins kind of just freaking out in a frenzy and kind of pushing the shark away with their beaks.
Tail slapping the water, trying to keep the thing from coming back for a third, a kill bite.
The dolphins drive away the shark, but Todd is badly injured.
And then, like it was sent from God, a wave came that was just a perfect little wave that was breaking right where we were. And I don't even know how I had the energy or the stamina or whatever it is to get into that wave, but I actually caught the wave. Within 10 or 12 seconds, I was washing up onto dry sand, and everything around me, all the foam, was just bright red.
We all kind of patted him like, Todd, you're gonna be all right, you're gonna be all right. But I was thinking like, I don't think he's gonna be all right. I thought he was done.
Todd is rushed to the hospital. It takes 500 stitches and 200 staples to close the massive wounds. Amazingly, Todd survives.
I don't think I was meant to die. I think that somebody, a higher power, was looking out for me and really potentially sent these dolphins or intended for them to be in the right place at the right time and to save me, because I think that the shark was going for broke. They say that great white sharks, when they attack, they make one devastating blow and then leave and wait for their prey to bleed out so they can completely avoid any type of injury to themselves.
Did dolphins really go out of their way to protect that surfer dude? Maybe. After all, as far back as Aristotle, dolphins have been known as wise guardians of the sea, and throughout history there have been tales of them saving human beings and leading lost ships to the safety of shore, and that's why we love them so much. But do they love us? Today, researchers believe dolphins are planet Earth's second most intelligent living things, and that they should be classified as non-human persons. But is it possible these superheroes of the sea actually help humans like Todd on purpose? Diana Reese, who has been studying dolphins for almost 30 years, believes so.
Why would they do this? Why would they risk staying in an area where there's sharks? Why would they risk coming to the aid of a person? It's not a relative, it's not even one of their own species. Why would they do this?
Diana's research shows that dolphins are incredibly intelligent and unique creatures possessing some human-like qualities. And these qualities may be the reason why they came to Todd's rescue.
Here we're showing this ability of dolphins for mirror self-recognition.
The ability to recognize oneself is rare in the animal kingdom, confirmed in only a few species, including elephants, chimpanzees, and magpies. Dr. Reese's experiment was designed to find out if dolphins can recognize themselves in a mirror.
In humans, mirror self-recognition emerges at about 18 to 24 months of age. And at that time, at least in human children, that's when the first signs of empathy start emerging. And now we're marking one of the dolphins. We mark them with a non-toxic marker, and he immediately swims to the mirror, which is right over here. He's been marked on his head, and it's now looking at this part of its head that's marked. And this is really unusual behavior for a dolphin. This dolphin's looking at the mark. Now, to see more of his body, he has to back away from the mirror. We understand that as well. And you can see him now, he's going to look in the mirror, he's spinning, and this is not a trained behavior. This is something he came up with himself. You see him looking and spinning. He looks and spins. This is an animal that knows he's looking at himself.
If true, a dolphin's power of self-recognition could mean that they are self-aware, like humans. And that would mean dolphins could actually possess a range of human-like emotions, including empathy.
I think these animals are capable of this kind of empathy. I think they're capable of understanding the plight of another, and I think they're capable of doing this behavior intentionally.
So we know dolphins are amazingly intelligent. They may have the capacity for compassion and many of the same qualities we have. But is there a more obvious reason why dolphins saved the surfer's life? Was it simply because dolphins just hate sharks? Thomas A. Jefferson is a researcher at the Southwest Fisheries in San Diego. He believes dolphins could possess human-like qualities, but they are far from the lovable creatures of public perception. Is it possible the dolphins' actions were guided by another, far more sinister emotion?
The image of dolphins as the happy-go-lucky playboys of the sea is not really very accurate.
There are many reports where dolphins have actually injured or in some cases killed people. In 1994 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, a bottlenose dolphin acted in self-defense to ram and kill a drunken man who tried to thrust a stick into his blowhole. Jefferson caught another shocking incident on video. A school of dolphins killing a porpoise, seemingly without any justification.
And we were doing research on bottlenose dolphins in Monterey Bay, and we came across a small group of dolphins that were behaving kind of unusually. A group of 3 dolphins out of a larger group of about a dozen or so were sort of corralling the porpoise and kind of pushing it underwater and very clearly hurting it so that it wouldn't be able to escape and move further offshore. And they eventually lunged on top of it and attacked it and behaved very aggressively and eventually actually killed the porpoise.
Bizarrely, it's believed the killer dolphins were sexually frustrated young males who, denied access to females in the pod, decided to vent their anger on the innocent porpoise. Could this capability for violence explain why dolphins attacked the shark? Could they have been looking for a fight? Or is there another unseen factor that can explain why dolphins saved the surfer's life? Dr. Daniele Maldini is the founder of Okeanos, a dolphin research group that had a boat out on the water when Todd was attacked. She believes there's a more logical explanation for what happened.
On August 28, 2007, our boat was out in the bay to find dolphins and follow them and do our normal routine survey, taking pictures of the animals to assess what was going on that day.
Their observations revealed that there were young among the dolphin pod, and it was to protect them that Maldini believes the dolphins attacked the great white shark.
The shark would have been a danger to their calves. Sharks are natural predators of dolphins, and so you would imagine that they would have reacted that way whether Todd was there or not.
But Todd will always believe they saved him out of compassion.
The dolphins were actually going out of their way to protect me. That is absolutely without a doubt what happened. They formed like a protective wall between me and the shark, and it was a conscious decision.
So whether this was a conscious act of empathy by creatures that cared whether Todd lived or died, or simply instinctual behavior by wild animals, remains weird or what? It's okay. Everyone loves pets. Around the world, countless millions of homes benefit from the love of a cat, and even more homes are covered with the hair of a dog. And although your beloved Rover or Chester may hold a place of high esteem in your home and at your feet, there's long been a suspicion about the dark and otherworldly powers of these furry friends. Folklore once spoke of a black dog as the portent of death. In medieval times, people oft associated cats with black magic. And they were thought to cause plague A belief that saw these poor little things slaughtered by the millions. We've long since abandoned these superstitions, of course, but what if there really is some weird truth buried in those old myths? Canton, Ohio. Here at the Pines Hospice for the Elderly, something mysterious right out of the X-Files seems to be going on. Something that defies logic. The hospice pet dog Scamp seems to have supernatural powers. A sixth sense hospice chaplain Beth Neerman has seen up close.
I had come to see one patient who was dying. They were within, hours of their death. And when I walked in the door, Scamp came up to me and he was just barking, and he does not do that normally. I said, "What's the matter, Scamp?" And he just turned around and he walked straight to that patient's room. And I was just dumbfounded.
Head nurse Adeline Baker was also shocked when she experienced Scamp's knack for predicting the end.
We found him at a bedside of some lady who was actively dying, and he was just sitting there standing guard. It took a few more times of things that happened like that for us to realize that maybe there was something going on here. He was always very curious to see if someone's okay or if he knew someone wasn't doing well. This one lady was ill on and off, and he knew the family. And as soon as he would see the son, he'd run up to that son and start barking when she was doing badly, even sometimes before we realized that she was like on a downhill slide.
Providence, Rhode Island. Here at the Steer Nursing Home, Oscar, a cat, also seems to possess a weird talent of foretelling a person's final moments of life.
We started to hear inklings of him sitting with patients as they were dying. And I think initially we were all fairly skeptical of a cat sitting with people as they were dying. But one episode became two, and two episodes became three and four. It started to be almost a marker for us that a patient might be nearing the end of their life.
Just as with Scamp, the dog, Oscar's uncanny sense is no one-off fluke. The predictions keep coming.
Oscar's been remarkably consistent. There was a period of time a year or two ago where he made every death that occurred here on the unit.
Scamp has been right about 40 times or more. I used to keep count of it, but I just sort of, after a while, was like, okay, that's pretty much enough.
There is no Stephen King-like feeling here on the ward, the idea that this cat is predicting death. Most of these patients don't know what's going on around them. They have a perception of if a cat is in the room, but they certainly don't attach any meaning to that. The patient families have been remarkably supportive of Oscar and, in fact, invite him in.
Actually, the residents and the families, they like him a lot. They love him. They equate him with part of being here and part of their home. Not so much that he's predicting death or illness, just that he's here, he's a comfort.
Here, kitty, kitty. Kitty, here, kitty, girl. So let me get this straight. Our pets can predict death? How can they do that? Do they have some kind of spooky sixth sense? Or are they using the super keen senses they already possess? After all, dogs and cats have hundreds of millions more scent receptors in their noses than we do. Is it possible pets are able to smell our imminent demise? Dr. Alexandra Horowitz is an expert on animal behavior and cognition.
When we awaken, we see the world. When dogs awaken, they smell the world.
That's because dogs have around 220 million smell-sensitive receptors in their noses compared to 5 million in humans.
I hold up a rose. To me, it's just a single item. To the dog, it is an item identified by the people who have handled it and have left their scent on it. Smells move through time. They mark how recently someone has visited a spot. Strong odors are recent, weak odors are more distant. A broken leaf might emit a scent. The scent of insects that have visited the rose and traveled from other places bringing their scents.
So does the dog's heightened sense allow them to smell the inner processes of the human body? Cutting-edge medical research suggests it might. Researchers in California trained dogs to successfully recognize odors on the breath of breast and lung cancer patients, just a few of the imperceptible odors of illness produced by the human body.
When someone is near death, or as their bodies ultimately deteriorate, there are certain odors that are emitted from the change in the concentration of acid in the fluid in the body to cells actually dying, to a bacteria which is taking over the body and it itself emits a scent. So there might be some timed smells associated with near death, with death, and with certainly after death, as we, even with our blunt noses, would eventually realize.
Beyond a heightened regular sense of smell, dogs and cats and some other mammals have an extra sixth sense in the form of a tiny organ called the vomeronasal, or Jacobson's organ. The vomeronasal organ, which has not been found in humans, is acutely attuned to pheromone activity, chemical messages that pass from one animal to another.
It's absolutely possible that when we're dying, we give off hormones, cortisol, stress hormone, or adrenaline as the body starts to resist death, that are detectable by the dog through his vomeronasal organ.
It's conceivable, but does an incredible ability to pick up scent really explain how Oscar the cat and Scamp the dog are able to sense the death of a human being? What if the animals are picking up on something completely unrelated to scent? Could we humans be unwittingly talking to animals, giving away telltale clues as to our physical or mental well-being by using a means of non-verbal communication science is only beginning to understand? Toronto, Canada. A dog named Boston has been trained to respond to the epileptic seizures of his handler, Andy Brooks. But something weird is happening. It seems that Boston has developed the ability to sense Andy's seizures up to 40 minutes before they even happen.
Boston would, detect these seizures by, whining and crying. And I'll be like, you know what? There's nothing wrong, Boston. I think you're just, losing your apples.
But each time neurologists tested Andy for the kind of brain activity that normally precedes a seizure, they confirmed Boston's diagnosis.
We checked by the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, I trust this dog with more than anything. So they got me hooked up and all that and found out, yeah, I'm having seizures, and he's detecting them before they happen.
Scientists dismiss the idea even a dog could sniff out subtle changes to the electrical impulses of the human brain. So what can explain Boston's bizarre predictions? Ian Ashworth is a dog trainer and a program director of Dog Guides Canada. He has a hunch dogs' powers of perception go way beyond simple scent.
We do find that some of our dogs do actually start detecting seizures. And it's something that we don't train for because as yet there's no real clear idea of what they're detecting. My own suspicion is that they are picking up in some subtle change in body language. Dogs are great readers of people's body language, and they can really tune into different moods and things that are going to happen. And so what we do is, if our clients notice that happening, then they do start to encourage it, just as they encourage any other area of the training. And anecdotally, we've had dogs that have detected seizures like 30, 45 minutes before it actually happens, which is amazing, and it's a huge bonus really for our client who initially gets this dog as a companion and to respond to their seizures, and then they suddenly find that it is actually giving them warning.
The best guesses, I think, are that they're detecting a slight change in behavior, which as humans we become accustomed to, even around an epileptic.
It's estimated that more than 60% of human communication takes place through body language. We're often unaware of this form of subconscious dialogue, but dogs are highly attuned to these cues and may even respond.
We could have animals telling us information about ourselves all the time. A dog sniffs something on your leg, you don't notice it. It doesn't seem like a communication to you. But it might be that the dog is noticing something of information, and we just haven't picked up on the fact that they're trying to tell us something. You don't need to have the dog intending to tell us something about our leg or intending to tell the person something about epilepsy, but they notice it.
So could pets like Scamp and Oscar really have the ability to pick up unconscious signals from their owners? It seems plausible. But before we make up our minds, let's consider another theory, something a little more esoteric. Now, when it comes to understanding cats, perhaps there's a more suitable expert of our feline friends than doctors and scientists. Witches have long been known for their special relationship with cats, known as familiars in witching lingo. Can a witch brew up some answers for us? Laurie Cabot is the official witch of Salem, Massachusetts, and the prophecies of Oscar the cat come, apparently, as no surprise to her.
He certainly is top of the line familiar. All cats have an ability the same ability that humans have for becoming a psychic.
Can cats read our conscious or unconscious minds? Cabot believes so, but only if our brainwaves align. Human brainwave activity is categorized into distinct patterns, including delta, theta, alpha, and beta. Beta waves are associated with the alert mind, while delta waves occur during deep sleep. But alpha waves occur when we are relaxed and settle somewhere in between, not asleep but not actively thinking. It is in this daydreaming alpha state where Cabot believes we all have the psychic potential to communicate with cats, who Cabot says are in the alpha state most of the time.
I think that Oscar is doing what every cat can do. He's picking up the information from their aura and their energy. And I think those people are very fortunate, really, to have him walk with them into the other world.
So Oscar the cat and Scamp the dog, are they smelling the imminence of death? Are we sending nonverbal signals to them? Or do our household pets have a supernatural sixth sense to read the human aura? Is that weird? Or what? A skinny 110-pound Missouri teen beats impossible odds by lifting a car to save his dying uncle. Do humans have reservoirs of hidden strength? Weird or what? Puts it to the test. You know what I love about comic books? They're just pure fantasy and utter escapism. I mean, take the Hulk. Here's a regular guy who involuntarily transforms into an unthinking super being, capable of incredible feats of strength when faced with moments of extreme stress. It could never happen in the real world, right? St. Louis, Missouri, 2005. Jim McLean is under his El Camino, preparing to replace a starter motor, when the jack that's holding the car off the ground malfunctions.
Took the old starter out, putting the new starter in, and I gave it one last crank. I seen it come out, it was coming down, Then it just collapsed right on my chest.
Trapped under the car, Jim has several broken ribs, but worse, with his lungs compressed, he can barely breathe.
Help! And when I yelled help, it just crushed me more. I was dying. I mean, I knew I was dying. And I'm going, God, don't let me die like this.
Jim's scream is heard by his nephew, Jack McClain, then just 14 years old.
There I heard someone yelling help. Then as soon as I saw that it was coming from my uncle who was under the car, then that's when I freaked out.
Jack realizes his Uncle Jim is moments from death, but what Jack doesn't realize is that this crisis is making his body go through an incredible transformation.
It was the weirdest feeling. I've never had any feeling like I had when I had heard that. I felt sick, and I ran over there, and that's when I started lifting.
With just seconds to spare, Jack attempts the impossible, to lift over 1,000 pounds of weight off his dying uncle.
I treated this car as if it weighed 10 pounds, that it had to go up, and he had to get air. I just grabbed right here under this bumper, started pulling. It's a weird feeling, you know, that every inch you go, you can't stop.
I was begging him. I mean, really, I was begging him.
Inch by inch, Jack lifts the car off his uncle's shattered chest.
You have to keep going. You have to find something. You'll use your toe muscles, anything you can find. And I just had to keep going. I couldn't stop.
He keeps going, holding the car up long enough for his uncle to struggle free.
That's what saved me. When the paramedics got here, they said another 10 seconds, I've been dead. If he didn't have that strength just to lift that frame up a little bit, I'd be dead.
It's probably one of the best days I've ever felt, you know, that I saved my uncle, and it's just something I will never forget.
Okay, so what do we have? Some guy is getting crushed to death by a car, and then a terrified, scrawny little kid manages to save him and become a real-life comic book hero in the process. Let's think about this for a second. If he's lifting the car at the engine block, even just an inch off the ground, that's around 1,000 pounds. That's unbelievable.
Or think about it this way. Jack lifted the equivalent of the world's deadlift record. How could this have happened? Is there something special about Jack McClain? David Sandler is a sports performance expert with over 20 years of experience training pro athletes. Today he's putting Jack McClain through his paces in search of the answers.
I meet some of the best athletes in the world, but none of them saved anybody's life. Jack McClain, 14 years old, 110 pounds, just this tiny guy in a total panic situation, lifting a 3,500-pound car, which is probably over 1,000 pounds at the engine. I mean, just an incredible feat of strength.
But amazingly, a feat of strength we're all capable of doing. It's estimated that we humans only use a maximum of 65% of our muscles' full capacity in everyday life. This gives good motor control, the ability to do delicate tasks, and it also makes us humans incredibly good at tasks requiring endurance. But what about the other 35%? Sandler's theory is this extra power can be summoned by unleashing an explosive phenomenon he calls hysterical strength.
Hysterical strength is basically the ability to call on every muscle in your body to help do some task when you're really in a lot of trouble. You've got maximal muscle recruitment and you create an unbelievable amount of power and force and overcome the impossible.
Within seconds of sensing danger, our brain sends a signal for our body to switch into an emergency state known as fight or flight. Adrenal glands start pumping out hormones designed to kick our vital organs into action. Our pupils dilate, making vision sharper. The heart races, blood pressure skyrockets. The liver releases glucose for quick fuel. Breathing speeds up, infusing the body with oxygen, while blood is diverted away from the skin into the muscles in preparation for an almighty blast of emergency hysterical strength.
Fear forces you to recruit muscle, fear forces you to produce force, and fear forces you to fight.
To test the hysterical strength theory, Sandler has devised an experiment using biofeedback software.
Over this way, we have rigged a bench press device to help us gather some information.
Jack has no idea that Sandler is planning to surprise and scare him in an attempt to trigger a genuine hysterical strength fear response.
In the meantime, I have a question. If I understand this correctly, this theory states that my body has the ability to coordinate all the fibers in my body's 640 muscles to work together and fire at the same time at a super high frequency to tap 100% of my potential and produce uncanny levels of strength. So why can't I open this jar? What I mean is, why can we only access this dormant power in moments of extreme fear? Why not whenever we want?
To find out, we need to take a trip into our evolutionary past.
Let's ask this guy, Dr. Lawrence Gonzalez. He has a theory. We can't all be Superman all the time because we think too much.
To him, a hormone-fueled physiological response is just part of the answer. The real explanation for such feats of strength is in how our brain rationalizes the extreme.
If someone you love is pinned under a car, you might rush out and lift the car up without stopping to think that you can't lift a car. And the stopping to think is the key to this, because if you stop to think, you aren't that strong.
All this thinking involves an area of the brain called the neocortex. The neocortex covers the outer layer of our brain and plays a critical role in controlling consciousness, language, reason, and logic, key characteristics that make us human. But according to Gonzalez, the neocortex also acts like an automobile governor, causing us to think twice, keeping our primal emotions in check. This overthinking makes us weaker, unable to tap into our full strength potential, a theory proven, Gonzalez believes, by the physical prowess of chimps.
That is, the mechanics of their joints, the makeup of their muscles, their chemistry, all of that is pretty much the same as ours. They're simply able to take full advantage of it all the time.
Even an average chimpanzee can lift more, jump higher than an elite human athlete. One reason for that, according to Gonzalez, is because they have a far smaller and less developed neocortex. So unlike us, the emotional instincts of chimps are far more unrestrained. They act without thinking and can summon 100% of their muscle capacity in everyday moments. So did Jack McClane manage to avoid thinking and override his neocortex?
I didn't even waste time to think about, can I do it? I had to do it.
Well, maybe he did.
Okay, so science has a few neat theories to explain how we might react to these extreme situations. But does science have all the answers? Take the great explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton in 1908, a hero of mine. He and 3 companions survived walking for weeks, half-starved, across the frozen Antarctic wastes with a ration of just 1 biscuit a day. To what did he attribute his survival? Increased physiological response leading to greater endurance? No. To Shackleton, it was down to the reassuring presence of angels urging him on.
So, could young Jack McClane have had a little help from, elsewhere? They think so.
I always wear my cross, and I got Jesus tattooed on my chest. I always had him on my chest for many years.
My grandpa, John Jack McClane, wouldn't be surprised if it was my grandpa looking over us.
So what's going on? This is John Geiger, an author who has researched many such responses from those who have overcome seemingly impossible physical odds. He refers to it as third man factor.
The third man factor is a sense that an unseen being, a presence, has intervened on your side in life and death struggles. It's hard to comprehend how one wiry teenager could do something that on a normal day probably 20 men could not do. It is hard to use any word other than miracle to describe that situation.
Geiger can't prove this theory. But sports performance expert David Sandler thinks he can provide evidence for a more down-to-earth explanation of Jack McLean's heroic deed. Sandler believes it was down to something he calls hysterical strength, a biological response triggered by fear. To test this, he's brought young Jack to a gym.
Getting different readings, Jen? Everything's good?
Now, Jack thinks he's doing bench presses so Sandler can collect data on how his muscles operate in normal conditions. In fact, Sandler is preparing a little controlled accident he hopes will terrify Jack's body into action. Can Jack release his super strength again?
Yeah, I think we're pretty good and ready to go. Oh!
So much for that. Jack looks completely unfazed. But did the stunt provoke a hysterical strength response from his muscles?
When the weight started falling, I just figured it was going to fall on me. So I tried to stop it, and then my heart started beating as I fell, so it was kind of scary at first.
Let's check the data, starting with Jack's heart rate.
You basically shot up to 150, almost 160 beats. 70 beats instantly. With your breathing rate, that jumped up considerably. You hit a 27 breaths per minute, like almost instantly. So again, bam, holy jumping, adrenaline dump, heart rate jump, breathing rate jump. So that's kind of cool. But what's really cool is the muscle activity. So here you are sort of moving along, all right? It's your muscles and you're kind of getting ready and going through. Now watch what happens to your muscle signal as we drop the weight. Oh, there it is. Yeah, see that? Yeah. Yes. Wow. So what happens is when you try to stop it, see how much more muscle activity occurs, okay? So as we're kind of doing this, you're sort of going up and down, we're getting a muscle reading. That was what you were seeing before. We drop the weight, you panic. Yeah. You fire everything you got to try to stop it.
The experiment has shown how a shock event can trigger a fear response, calling dormant muscle strength into action. But what happens at the gym will never match that day in 2005 when a skinny 110-pound teenager managed to lift a full-size car off his trapped uncle. Is that weird or what? So there we have it. 3 weird mysteries, but several even weirder theories. A surfer under attack from a great white shark, saved by dolphins. Did they rush to his aid, fueled by human-like compassion or rage? Did the dolphins act on pure instinct? Cats and dogs, seemingly able to predict the passing of a human being. Are they detecting the scent of death? Are they picking up our unconscious body language? Or do our pets have supernatural powers? A skinny kid does the seemingly impossible. He lifts a car, saving his uncle from death. Was this extra strength fueled by a fear response? Or did Jack McLean have a guardian angel? You decide.
Join me next time for 3 more stories that will undoubtedly be weird or what?